Oh, what's going on, GameLeap? This is the Jizz, and we're going to be going through today the 10 best champions for patch 12.4, and the notes, like we mentioned in yesterday's tier list, were released yesterday on Twitter, so we're going to be going through the changes and figuring out the 10 most likely champions to be absolutely busted. So make sure you stick around for the whole video to make sure who you should pick for free LP next patch. And just before we do get into the countdown, make sure, if you haven't already, to check out the GameLeap website. We are uploading up to 20 videos a week for our subscribers, and these are champion courses, their guides, their VOD analyses from high elo, where we break down what the best players in the world do that everyone else doesn't do to give you the chance to become one of them. So get that exclusive access by signing up, and let's get into the countdown. Now, coming in at number 10, well, we're going to start in the top lane here, and this is a champion who benefited from last patch's item changes to all those bruiser and fighter items, and this is Fiora. Now, the really good thing for Fiora in 12.4 is that these item changes aren't going anywhere. So if you're going Gore Drinker, 10 more attack damage, which is going to stay. If you're going Ravenous Hydra, which is 5 more attack damage for the same price, and even Death Stance, which is going to heal you based off your bonus attack damage. Now remember, the extra AD from Gore Drinker and Ravenous Hydra, this is getting pumped into Death Stance's passive, and this has really been huge for one of the best duelists in the game. And we haven't had a countdown like this in a while because Fiora is only one of 2 top lane champions featuring in the top 10 for 12.4, and we'll have to find out later in the video who the number 1 champion is, though I'm predicting a lot of you will be able to guess who it is. Now, beating Fiora to number 9 on the countdown, we're heading down to the bot lane here and talking about Jhin. And ever since right buff fleet footwork towards the end of last year, Jhin has been in a really good position, especially when you consider all the other changes in the bot lane, to shield bow, to with's end, couple of lethal tempo changes, some champions nerf like Caitlyn and Vayne. Jhin has really just stayed solid, and he's going to be solid again in 12.4 because nothing is getting nerfed in terms of the champion or the items you build. Jhin is also really versatile because even if you don't win lane, you still bring so much to a team fight, and this is why he's still picked an awful lot even in the pro scene. But because Jhin is an AD carry, you might want to consider picking another champion, and the champion filling the number 8 spot on this countdown resides in the jungle, and this is Kayn. And for Kayn in 12.4, just like a lot of these other champions, nothing is changing for you, which is really good because there aren't any item changes at the moment. This means that when you go Gore Drinker, remember, like I mentioned for Fiora, this is giving you 10 extra AD, so even though it might be a bruiser fighter item, for assassins like Kayn, if you do go Shadow Assassin, this is huge and is actually better than going Prowler's Claw or Duskblade, whatever lethality mythic you may have gone in the past. But what about if you want to go the Rast version of Kayn? Well, if we think about it, those items that I mentioned for Fiora, so you've got Gore Drinker, of course, Death Stance, and even Black Cleaver now, which is giving you more attack damage and more ability haste, even though you're losing a bit of HP, especially the ability haste part. This is a massive stat for raid Kayn, and this has seen Kayn, especially in high levels of play, have an extremely high win rate, and there's no doubt in my mind that in the near future, Gore Drink will probably get nerfed, and maybe even some of these champions, because that's what the balanced team does sometimes. So I would abuse this as much as you can in the present to get yourself LP before it definitely gets nerfed. Now, ahead of Kayn coming in at number 7 on the countdown, we're going to head to the mid lane here and talk about 2 champions. Now, can you guys guess which champions these are going to be? Well, of course, these are going to be the Wind brothers, Yone and Yasuo, and they really fit into the theme of this countdown because once again, the new bruiser fighter items, they really suit these high damage dealers, and for Yone and Yasuo in particular, you have the new Death Stance, which you can build as a 3rd item after Shield Bow and Infinity Edge, maybe Mortal Reminder in some games if the enemy team has a lot of healing, and then you get Death Stance and you are absolutely unkillable. These 2 champions as well, particularly in lower levels of play, they do cop a lot of criticism, and in lower elos it's probably because games are going to go a little bit later, so you're going to be hitting that 3rd item Death Stance spike, at which point you'll be able to 1v1 anyone, and it's still extremely hard to kill you because of the Shield Bow passive and the lifesteal you get as well at this point. So it's going to be another great patch for Yone and Yasuo, and of course you can still play these in the top lane, especially with these new items, because they're giving you a bit more durability against those other bruisers and fighters in the split push in the mid to late game. But ahead of the Wind brothers coming in at number 6 on this countdown, we're going to head back to the bot lane here and talk about the only support on this list. So if you guys are not going to abuse Senna in 12.4, there is no doubt that you have lost the plot. And the reason Senna is so strong at the moment as a support, well, you can't really play her as an AD carry anymore because of the nerf that came in, because you're not getting as many miss rates if you do kill minions. So you're much better off letting your AD carry kill them, and you will scale into a game a heck of a lot quicker. And to be honest, Senna is probably going to be on this countdown indefinitely because of that ridiculous 20% slow ride put into OQ. It is so obnoxious still to play against, and it's still going to be at 20% in 12.4. And the great thing about this, if you're playing Senna, you don't even have to queue an enemy champion as long as you hit them. So you could even queue through a ward, a tower, a minion. As long as you hit them for the next 2 seconds, they're going to be slowed, and you can deal an incredible amount of damage, especially in the late game when your range increases with your passive stacks. So Senna comes in at number 6 on this countdown. countdown, but beating her to number 5, we're actually going to stay in the bot lane here and talk about the second best AD carry for 12.4, and this is one of those ADCs that has been nerfed a little bit in recent times, and this is Vayne. But for Vayne next patch, what's good is the fact that Lethal Tempo and Vayne yourself, you're still in a very strong position. This champion still has one of the best win rates in the entire game, and it's simply because of their new Lethal Tempo and how it interacts with her. Because for another patch, guys, in 12.4, Vayne isn't really going to have that many weaknesses. Once she gets Lethal Tempo stacked, which should be easy because she should be building attack speed, once you get that extra range, you become the scariest champion on the Rift. Now, what's also good for Vayne as well, if you did want to play her in the top lane potentially, I mean, you can still do this in the bot lane, is to build the improved Blade of the Ruined King, because remember, this got buffed. So the on-hit damage, this is 2% higher now, so if you're against a very tanky opposition, I mean, you will still shred them because your true damage and your silver bolt, but still, Vayne with the new Blade of the Ruined King is a new option, so you also have this, which is going to be in the game for 12.4 as well, so Vayne has to come in at number 5. Now for number 4 on this countdown, we're going to be heading back to the jungle, and it's for the exact same reason Kayn is going to be super broken in 12.4. This is the same for Kha'Zix as well, because at the moment, the best Kha'Zix players in the world in high elo are actually building Gore Drinker as their mythic, once again because it's giving you more attack damage, and for assassins, this is when bruiser items become viable, because the attack damage part, you want to be dealing as much damage as possible, and to be honest, it's not really that big of a drop-off when you compare it to something like Prowler's Claw or Duskblade, and it gives you that really important sustain and durability, because sometimes if you are playing Kha'Zix or other assassins, once you actually do jump in, you can get one-shot and you're just trading one for ones, which isn't really that ideal, especially in solo queue when we want to stay alive and hard carry. So Gore Drinker becoming better for assassins, this is seeing Kha'Zix jump all the way up into the top 4, and of course you can consider building the other bruiser items that got better for Kha'Zix in 12.3, these being Death's Dance and potentially more of Malmortius if the enemy team has a lot of magic damage. So not only are you pretty much still dealing the same amount of damage, but you have become, because of those item changes, a heck of a lot harder to kill, and this is going to be the case in 12.4 as well. But there are 3 champions, believe it or not, who are going to be in a better position than Kha'Zix in 12.4, and taking the bronze medal for next patch in terms of the best champions, we're heading back down to the bot lane here, and this is the premier AD carry you guys have to pick, and this of course is Jinx. Now because Caitlyn has been nerfed, Vayne's been nerfed a little bit with Shieldbow, Wit's End, and Vayne herself, and Jhin no doubt is really good, but he doesn't have the carry potential Jinx has, because this champion pretty much at the moment has no weaknesses. Because of Lethal Tempo, her range, her DPS, it gives her a much better laning phase, and it gives you the ability to hit that late game, which is when you become one of the best hyper carries. And like we mentioned before, other AD carries who have been hit by the shield bow and Wit's End nerfs, Jinx has really bypassed this, and to be honest, is still as good as she has ever been. So Jinx remains for another patch as the best AD carry on the Rift, so make sure you play her if she's open at 12.4, but maybe a champion who's a little bit better at hard carrying than Jinx, because after all, just like Jhin and Vayne, these are AD carries, and you do have a support next to you that you can't really control. But taking the number 2 spot, the runner-up, the silver medal in this countdown, guys, we've got to head to the mid lane for this one, and it's kind of exciting because we haven't mentioned Ahri for absolutely ages, but she is easily the best mid laner you guys can pick because of the changes that came in last patch. You can get up to 8 ultimates in a team fight, your abilities, pretty much all of them deal more damage, and you also have more sustain. You might be a little squishier, especially against attack damage champions, but is this trade-off worth it? Of course it is, and this is why this champion at the moment has a 53% win rate and is easily one of the best in the entire game. So she is the number 2 best champion for 12.4. Nothing is changing, so no worries here. But the number 1 champion, I said earlier that Fiora was one of 2 top laners to be on this countdown. So who do you guys think is going to be the most broken top lane and most broken champion on the Rift in 12.4? And lots of people were talking about this because she wasn't actually mentioned in the patch notes for getting nerfed, because that's how broken people believe she is. And to be honest, everyone is right. Riven is easily the most busted champion on the Rift at the moment because of all those new bruiser and fighter items getting changed. They benefited her more than any other champion because ability, haste, attack damage, these are her 2 most important stats, and these got buffed in pretty much every single item in 12.3. Nothing is changing next patch in terms of these items, so Riven is the standout best champion in the game, and of course she does take a little bit to learn and master, but we do have our very own Riven guide that we uploaded a few days ago, so make sure you check that out if you want to play this Giga Broken champion. And those were the 10 best picks for 12.4, guys. If you want to give yourself the best chance of gaining LP, definitely consider picking these up for next patch. And as always, this has been the Jizz. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you did enjoy the video and you want these countdowns to continue, make sure you leave a like down below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future daily Season 12 content. And until tomorrow's daily video, this has been the Jizz. Peace.